Okay, Rosie, you're going to have to get down. You are going to have to get down. You're just too big to be up here. Okay, get down, Rosie. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get at it. uh, um, I found out by accident that there is a little gauge, little dial thing on the camera that brings it into a different focus. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I kind of liked the blurry. The blurry covered up the crack in the wall. And some of my uh, battle scars. But the truth is the truth, and we are what we are, and so let us go forward. I'm going to change screens. Stand by one. I'm bringing up so I can see it. My blog, Max's Thread. I think by this time in the afternoon, you know, here it's 6 p.m. Central Time on the prairie, North America. And so I don't know, you know, what time it is for you, but you're somewhere, and probably by this hour in your day or night, you're aware that there has been yet another traumatic, very traumatic uh, event. I don't even know what to call these things anymore. Once upon a time, you know. Anyway, you are aware. This headline says, an Islamist knifeman forced a priest, 84 years old, to kneel and filmed his death as they slit his throat. The other day I remarked that the American people are extremely naive, know very, very, very little about these kind of events. They're not covered in the news. People are not aware that these kinds of things are actually happening. Or if they vaguely know about it, well, it's somewhere, you know, in the Middle East, or it's in the heart of Africa, or it's somewhere that has nothing to do with us. This event, where a priest had his throat cut while conducting mass, happened in France. France is a lovely, very civilized, wonderful European country. No barbarians live in France. American people think of France, particularly, you know, Paris, as one of the most cultured places on the planet. It is inconceivable that a killing of this kind has taken place in France. This is going to become more and more common. These kind of events that, or this is my prediction, this is what I expect that we will see. And we will see it quickly. This isn't going to be strung out over the next decade. A priest had throat cut while another hostage is fighting for life after knifemen burst into Normandy church at 9 a.m. Reports that one of the attackers shouted Allah Akbar as they launched attack at Gambetta Church. Vatican has condemned the barbaric killing of the 84-year-old priest. And an anti-terror investigation is underway. ISIS claim responsibility for the atrocity, while Francois Hollande says France is at war with the terror group. One of the attackers lived locally and had electronic tag, having been jailed in France for trying to travel to Syria. I'm just reading, headline captions here. French authorities revealed this afternoon that they have arrested the third man in connection with the attack. The ISIS knifemen who stormed into a church in Normandy filmed themselves butchering an elderly priest after forcing him to kneel at the altar, it has emerged. The 84-year-old priest had his throat cut, while a nun is critically injured in hospital following the raid, which saw 5 people held hostage by ISIS assailants shouting Allah Akbar. The 2 killers were neutralized by marksmen as they emerged from the building, which is being checked for booby traps. French president said the country is at war with ISIS while the terror group has claimed responsibility for the killing. There are many, many reports of this coming in. I kind of waited myself to have it confirmed. And one of my colleagues who is in the UK also posted with regard to this matter, and actually his report is superior to this one, which I put up early in my morning. There are photographs. By this time, many more details have emerged, and we're not going to talk too much about the specifics of this. Going on. Early this morning, I also put up a piece which contrasts the sanity of President Putin. Forgive me and my names, it's just hard. And the greatest freak show on earth, which is the Democratic National Convention going on in the city, the birthplace of the Liberty City of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in USA. Abandon hope, all ye who enter here. I'm telling you, it is a freak show. I watched some of Dabu's live stream. I've seen numerous other reports. It is absolutely a freak show, and I'm not going to dwell on details of that either. A thing people have noticed about the DNC is that there are no American flags on display in or around. The stage and the trappings inside the convention center are all a kind of a dull steel gray, very little accent, no red, white, and blue, no flags. And the proceedings have just been absolutely, you can't call it anything but a freak show. I do not think that this is accidental. I believe that this convention and everything associated with it is under the auspices of powers that be that can control down to the millisecond all the images that they put out there. This is not accidental. And many people, uninformed people, are really enjoying the sideshow, watching the Democrats make total, complete ass fools of themselves. Getting a brief moment, a little aha moment, a little feel-good moment of seeing how utterly stupid they are. But I do not think that that is genuine. This convention could have been, and is, you must know that, it is completely controlled. They're putting out what they want people to see. They want the public to see this freak show, this everything in this ridiculous disarray. It's not accidental. It's not because they're stupid. It's not because they're falling apart. They are permitting this. Exactly why, I'm not sure. But in any case, they are. Changing screens again. Kind of far-flung here. I have lately struggled with this, the thing about false flag events. The part I couldn't get about false flag events at this point in time is why so many of the truthers continued to be so focused on the process of debunking these false flag events, de-hoaxing them. And I suspected that many people involved in that experienced moments of aha, I gotcha, little feel-good moments in getting to prove that these things are false flags and that they are hoaxes, having components. There's real action. There is hired actors playing stage parts. It's all manipulated. It's all controlled. And yes, I know, and we need to know about all of that, but I couldn't understand why the truth movement continued to be so focused on it. Got any sense of, I thought, do people find this comforting? How is this comforting? I see these however they come about, These are attacks, and they are horrible attacks. And that they are manufactured, manipulated attacks makes that even worse in the way that I view these things. But someone has, I had to seek enlightenment and ask. And one of my colleagues has responded and has described it this way. He says, it's not about the reality or the deaths. They happen because they are in the reality. It's not whether it's staged, false, or whatever. It's the fact that those that desire power are still playing out the scenarios and going through the motions. It tells us that the hand is still on the reins, and they have not let the beast run to its full potential. The hand is still on the reins. The hand is on the reins of the DMC. So, they're up there playing the part of buffoons, but that's planned. Going on. The moment they let go, the whole appearance, style, and outcome will become self-evident to all, as the imagery will noticeably change to horror, not emotion or signs of manipulation. Fear and horror will take place there, and it's all on for this existence of man, just like it was done twice before last century. I am assuming that that's a reference to the First and Second World Wars. All that started as managed acting in scripted events. We wait now for the last scripted event to be replaced by the raw, unscripted horror of a beast let go. I think my colleague Ellie has summed this up brilliantly. I thanked him for being so blunt, helping me to understand. I appreciate that very, very much. Returning to the priest. The priest who's, some reports are describing it, that the priest was beheaded. Not just that his throat was slit, but that he was beheaded in a ritualistic manner. It is being reported that some kind of prayer or verbal ritual was performed by the killers at the altar. The priest was made to kneel. There were several nuns present. This was a small early morning mass. There were a few parishioners present. It is being said that the priest was beheaded in a ritualistic manner. This is a bit of a conversation I picked up. One party says, cowardly to pick on unarmed and servants of God. One would expect real combatants and soldiers to engage worthy targets, not those who are generally unarmed and not those who are easily identifiable as servants of God. A second party chimed in here and said, I would personally start with demonic, passing through goat-humping rock kissers, and finally getting to their ultimate assembly of descriptive adjectives which cannot be adequately expressed. Suffice it to say that liberals are cowardly, criminals are demented. The cheerleaders of the New World Order are diabolical narcissists, but murderers whose God is their 7th century reincarnated Satan, I'm at a loss for words. This is a simple conversation, but there is, here's the deal. It is human nature, it is an axiom that you judge others by yourself. This is good and right and wholesome. We do judge others by ourselves, and we do this because we are social animals seeking to live in harmony with others of our kind. And we do judge others by ourselves. We have got to stop doing that, you all. We absolutely have to stop judging others by ourselves. We have to get this. Mankind has got to understand this fundamental point here. And one of the reasons going on, I'm going to come back to that. I'm not done with that. One of our colleagues sent me a related and similar piece of information. Just trying to think. All right, let us look at it this way. I'm going to talk about one of the foundation pieces of the psychology of psychopaths. And I want you to understand how this psychology has been applied to the children of God. That is us. There was a brief hiccup of indignation last week regarding the French police choosing to downplay the fact that the dead hostages, this was last week's episode, taken by Islamic terrorists at the Bataclan Music Hall, had been viciously tortured and their bodies mutilated. See, we weren't told that part. There was the same brief hiccup of indignation when it appeared that the German police likewise chose to downplay those instances of sexual abuse perpetrated on local women by so-called Syrian refugees. A commenter on one particular thread discussing this observed acidly that we were now well into Pravda country where the published news stories must be carefully scrutinized and parsed to tease out the actual facts. What is released regarding certain occurrences is not meant to inform us. Instead, such reports are meant to appear as if we are being informed. The reports are meant to appear as if we're being informed. But the actual intent is to conceal and not to offend those in political power. I've begun to believe, though, that our establishment media and those elements of the ruling class who control or collude with them are going well beyond simply obscuring current events, but are deliberately practicing a kind of mass gaslighting on us all. Gaslighting? Oh yes, this is a definition courtesy of the Urban Dictionary. A form of intimidation or psychological abuse, sometimes called ambient abuse, where false information is presented to the victim, making them doubt their own memory, perception, and quite often their sanity. Mandela effect? That would be an extreme, but very classic example. A more psychological definition of gaslighting is, quote, an increasing frequency of systematically withholding factual information from and or providing false information to the victim, having the gradual effect of making them anxious, confused, and less able to trust their own memory and perception. This shit goes on all the time and in places where you don't think to look for it. This happened, this very sequence of stuff here happened online in the little research forum a few months back. It's hideous what these psychopaths do and the way they do it. And you can't catch on to it because you are judging others like yourself. Psychopaths are not like you. They never were and they never will be. Once that psychopathic demon gets into that individual, they are not like you. Their psychology and their parapsychology becomes utterly, utterly foreign to you. If you're judging them by yourself, you can't make heads or tails of any of this going on. False information presented, making us doubt our own memories and perception of events. Systematically withholding factual information from us. So if you're in a relationship and you have a right to certain information and that information is withheld from you, you're in an abusive relationship. Know that. Having the gradual effect of making us anxious, confused, less able to trust. Less able to trust. That's significant. Once you've damaged somebody's ability to trust, you've damaged an essential spiritual component in that individual psyche. going on. Yep, we've been gaslighted all right, and some of us more than others. I'd say that the African American community is being royally gaslighted by the Black Lives Matter organizing cadre, and the Democrat Party has also been gaslighted in a grand scale into believing or pretending to believe that Hillary Clinton is the most qualified presidential candidate ever. Barack Obama takes the absolute prize, though, in having gaslighted himself into believing that he is the very best U.S. president in our history. All right, so now I'm going to read this other report. A migrant was arrested for brutally raping a young woman so severely that she was left to die from her injuries in a pool of her own blood. However, as soon as the liberal judge heard the horrific facts, he freed the migrant and allowed him to remain on welfare because of one tiny detail. On April 29th, a 26-year-old asylum seeker forced his way into a young woman's apartment in Falkirk, Sweden. This man's name apparently was, I'm going to call him Graham. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Graham beat the woman into submission and raped her, details of which are so sadistic that its graphic description may be too disturbing for some. As appalling as the crime was, it still wasn't enough to keep an appeals court's judge from delivering one of the most unjust rulings of the refugee crisis. Sentenced to a 2.5-year prison term and deportation back to wherever, Graham recently won his appeal, allowing the former illegal alien to stay as a permanent resident of Sweden and remain on welfare benefits. In a shocking turn of events, a chief judge and several lay judges heard the gruesome details of this horrific rape and physical assault, yet freed the rapist because they deemed the offense was not sufficiently serious. I'm going to read these details, and you decide whether you think these events are sufficiently serious. According to Freya Tider, I believe that is the rape victim's name. I think her name was Freya. Graham first pried open the woman's mouth and poured alcohol down her throat. While threatening to kill her if she screamed, he forced her to the floor and raped her as he repeatedly punched her in the head, neck, and face. After raping the woman, Graham forced his entire fist into the victim's vagina, causing her immense bleeding and swelling. He also reportedly pressed a glass bottle into her vagina before using it to beat her in the abdomen. The victim was raped and beaten so severely that one of her cervical vertebrae was shifted and required resetting at a local hospital. She also sustained inflammation and internal bleeding of the abdomen, vagina, and head. This one news agency reports that Graham was first sentenced to the paltry jail term and expulsion from Sweden. Of course, he not only escaped this fate, but was rewarded by having his permanent residence and government benefits secured. The Swedish Migration Board defended Grum by saying that since he was granted permanent residence in Sweden after entering as a migrant, he should be allowed to stay. Along with two other lay judges, Court of Appeals Chief Judge so-and-so, Court of Appeals counsels Charlotta so-and-so and somebody else, concluded that the brutal rape and assault is not enough to deport Grum. In fact, he'll be allowed back out on the streets to rape again. Of course, the Swedish Migration Board has a history of covering up migrant offenses and advocating for migrant criminals to have minimal sentences and stay in Sweden. In fact, they've even protected child molesters and rapists from arrest while silencing victims within asylum centers. Typically, Sweden gives minimum punishments to migrant rapists, even if they are to be expelled after serving their sentence. However, asylum seekers have found a way to beat the system. They will serve a portion of their sentence and then appeal until they get their way. Even if their appeal is denied, which is rare, they get to waste more taxpayers' money and stay in the country longer. Some of these details are not apropos to our discussion, but the other part was. What does this have to do with gaslighting and the psychology of psychopaths? I said yesterday that rape is not about sex. I want you to look at that statement in connection to this description. What this guy did to this woman: forced his entire fist and none of this has anything at all to do with normal human sexual function. This is not about sex. Sodomistic rape of male and female is also not about sex. Anatomically, this kind of trauma how am I going to say this? Anatomically, this kind of trauma splinters the distal ganglia of the 12th vagal nerve. Which, I can visualize this so clearly, it's just hard to put in words. All right. Causes this profound shock to travel up the 12th nerve to the brain, where it explodes. People report afterwards blinding white light, and then followed by a sense of something like peace, in that all struggle ceases. It actually produces a pseudo-death in the brain. a pseudo-death in the brain, which splits the personality. One part or more, maybe more parts of the personality is dissociated from the person's main consciousness. This is how the MK Ultra programming works. This has nothing to do with sex. This is the most foul, perverted, turn upside down, backward, reversal. You know, that's what the Satanists and the Luciferians do, is reverse everything. Reverse everything in God's world and turn it around inside out, upside down, and backward. Reversal. This is what many of their rituals are designed to do. And this brutal rapery accomplishes all of that, creating a pseudo-death in the brain from trauma to the 12th nerve, the distal ganglia of the 12th nerve that is located in this area of the human body, which is impacted during these rapes. But when we read about reports of these kind of things, when we discuss it in polite company, or however, there is always the impression given, delivered by the psychopaths to the human population, making people somehow believe that the conduct of, for example, in this case, the migrant raping European women is due to normal sexual desires. And they use that because normal people judge others by themselves. Oh yeah, I have sexual desires. I kind of know what that feels like. You do not have any concept of what it must feel like to be demonically possessed in the way that it would take to make a man do this to a woman, to a girl, to a child, to another guy. So, you know, you don't judge others by yourself. We're looking at a phenomena that is utterly foreign to most of us normal human beings. And somehow we've got to find the vocabulary and the ways and means to be able to discuss this and deal with it. Now, I can't hardly make myself imagine what it would be like to be sitting in a quiet church early in the morning, a very small group of people, an old priest. He actually, I guess, he was just a substitute. The regular priest was gone on vacation, and this old guy was filling in. Lovely sunlit morning, birds chirping outside. A little handful of people had come together. And this happens And this priest has his throat slit. And more than likely, although most reports are not choosing to get as graphic as that, he probably was, his head was probably decapitated from his body. And there are very few mental images that you can conjure up that are harder to look at than a decapitated body and somebody holding that head up by its hair. You almost can't go there. You sure as hell don't want to go there, and we have been persuaded that we must not go there. You must not go there. And I think at this time, I guess it was about 6 weeks ago, for whatever reason, I noticed a lot of things calling for the put on the armor of God. There was a whole lot about this. Put on the armor of God. I don't have any material to that pulled up on my screen at the present time, but I can see that I will have to do a little bit more work on that and bring that up. Part of the armor of God is going to be preparing our minds for some of the things that are almost certain to begin coming into our view. And we have to demand that truth be told. We have to demand of ourselves that we tell truth. We have to be strong enough to know and identify. That's a completely different thing than being accusatory. To state the truth does not equate with being accusatory. We're coming to hard times. We're coming to tough times, and that means that we have to be tougher than we were. Because we have to make it through this, and we have to win this battle. This is the final battle, one way or the other, for life on the planet as we desire it. All right, darling. And that reminds me, don't come at me. Don't come at me at all with that thing. Death is only an illusion. Bullshit. No, darling. Death is not an illusion. Life is not an illusion. And physical death is not an illusion either. It is real. So that passivity that was induced by whatever philosophy or whatever that, well, all this killing and all that, it's really all right because, death is just an illusion. Bullshit. All that is induced passivity. And death is not an illusion. This Islamic movement, let's call it that, is the foot soldiers of an enormous worldwide death cult. It's a death cult. It is anti-life. And in that sense, it is anti-Christ. Okay, I probably said enough for right now. Okay, well, I will find my way back out of here. I don't know if this screen is even still alive. Maybe it's not. Okay, here we go. I will talk again soon, and I'm actually going to talk about mental preparedness for dealing with the new information that we're going to have to cope with. I will talk with you later.